Okay, so here we are in the circus hall in Phnom Penh on a very, very hot day. Um, Welcome to Phnom Penh. It's been, what, 3 years now since we first met. You were about to go to Bhutan to do the opera Acis and Galatea. And I think within half an hour we decided we wanted to collaborate on this project. So it's now 3 or 4 years and we've reached a point of kind of evolution. How do you feel about the situation right now?
I'm very happy because as a director I had the opportunity to work with many of these great artists of Amrita and also to develop more my knowledge in other fields like the puppets shadow theater, like the circus elements, the magic lantern possibility element. So it is a great chance for me to learn as much as I can of the Cambodian performing arts. And of course, this second workshop was extremely exciting. Yeah.
Why?
Well, because we met for the second time, so we develop a sort of mutual confidence in our. We trust even more, and the people is always even more committed with the text, with the plot. I think that when you are honest intellectually, when you know what you want, but you're so open to also to receive. Advices and comments. I mean, we are an open, really an open door, ready to receive information, not only to arrive to give information. So the exciting aspect was this constant mutual exchange of experience that make probably this show unique because we are melting so many different languages, but we hope to find a total unique element of union of the different languages. Yeah.
So by doing this idea of the grand spectacle, the Cambodian magic flute, how will this actually help Cambodians understand, the morality or at least the point of Mozart's music?
Well, first of all, from my point of view as a director, it is a fairy tale with many things similar to Amkor, with rescues of a lost girl, with trials to do, with a prince accompanied by a mysterious element, half man, half animal, like a papageno, that could remind in some way a little bit Hanuman, but also what I like very much is when I put Mozart music, the young artists of Cambodian the Cambodian dancers started to sing this music. When they go away, I see that they started to vocalize the Queen of the Night aria. So this means that Mozart now belongs to them. And this is exciting, that we can really find a common language that is a sort of cultural brotherhood also.
What about the audience, the Cambodian audience, and how will they react to this grand spectacle idea?
For me, this is a challenge because, of course, Cambodian audience. I never worked in Cambodia, so I'm very. It is a challenging opportunity for us to work. But I think that when the Cambodian audience, when a theater audience is not bored, first of all, but is amused, or they can be upset or happy, but the important is that they don't yawn, because this is the real default of a director and of a show. So I really hope that it's very important the visibility of our work in every terms, television, interview, possibility to speak about that, to open rehearsals is also important, because I think that people should understand that behind the show there is always a great, deep, very hard work. And so please open rehearsals. Everybody who wants to come to see what we are doing, what we are creating, what we are working on, they are very welcome, absolutely. So this is the audience, and I hope a lot in an educational aspect. Many young people should come, many kids, many open rehearsals to schools, because it's not only a show, it has many aspects, also in terms of moral aspect, ethical aspect, educational aspect, anthropological aspect that we should defend and we should absolutely have in mind constantly. This is very important for me.
Okay, so you can cut that for a second while I look at the next questions.
Okay, let's go.
So, Aaron, you decided not only to introduce Cambodian classical instruments into the ensemble, but also to use actual Cambodian music, so to actually insert some Cambodian classical themes, tunes. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I mean, it was very much about what this project is all about. It's a Mozart magic flute in Cambodia, and the idea was to basically engage in a cultural dialogue between, of course, Western culture and Cambodian culture. And so for me, it was a very automatic, natural idea to introduce Cambodian music. In what way? At the beginning, I wasn't really sure because, of course, I'm not an expert in Cambodian music. So for me, it's been a journey of discovery also of this amazing musical culture. It's very different to, of course, Western music. And so that was the first, one of the big problems to overcome was how exactly do we put these two languages together. One of the solutions that I came up with was that in Magic Flute, of course, Papageno has his magic instrument, which is a kind of a glockenspiel. And I thought, okay, well, if Mozart was in Cambodia himself, what would he have done? Well, he probably would have used some of these very beautiful Cambodian instruments. And so I set about arranging Mozart's music for the glockenspiel for a Khmer ensemble. And in Mozart's opera, of course, this music has to relate to the orchestra of Mozart. So we were fortunate to have an orchestra with the Khmer musicians to actually experiment how this would work together. And I thought it was a very successful experiment. Very happy with the results.
And the introduction of actual Cambodian music. So where did
Yes,
that come
exactly. Well, again, that was a decision that Stefano and I both made because it was very much also related to, remember, we're not doing a concert, it is an opera, so there's theatre behind it, so it was very much a theatrical decision as well. And there are a couple of moments in the opera where we thought that substituting Mozart's music with something exquisitely Cambodian would have more effect in this particular context of this particular project. For example, there's a very solemn march that we thought would work better with choreography of the Amrita Dancers with traditional Cambodian music. And we've experimented putting these two expressions together, and it's true, you kind of think, oh, Mozart and then Cambodian traditional music, you know, they're quite unrelated, but in reality, in the context of this particular project, okay, it's but I think the audience, both Western and Cambodian, I think will find it fascinating.
He's talking to the camera and to me. Is that okay? Is that that's okay? Okay. So. How did the Cambodian musicians respond initially to the music?
Initially, there was a lot of difficulty, and of course, I was working in Italy, and they were trying to prepare things in Cambodia. So obviously, there was a difficulty of course, of maybe communication. But I think also another difficulty for Cambodians, it's got to do with the way they learn music. When they learn a piece of music, the teacher plays the music to the student, and the student simply by ear just imitates that, and it's repeated. So in reality, they learn everything by memory, copying the teacher. However, they do know how to read music. It's true, they have a very good musical background. They can read the music, so they can sit there, but it's a slower, more labored process because they have to read and they have to work out what they're doing. So I gradually, when I was working with them, I realized that we had to combine these two elements, working by repetition, but also getting them also to read the music.
So you decided to do it in English. Why is that?
I think that the English we have a wonderful translation of the English text. And then we have to think that this is not the Zauberflöte by Mozart. This is a Cambodian magic flute. So we start from Mozart, but then should become something absolutely personal and unique in terms of show. So I am not so afraid to use English translation, especially because we have also many spoken dialogues in Zauberflöte, in magic flute. And so it's important for the audience to understand that it is a plot that combines spoken dialogue, music, and of course element of dancing, etc. So I think that the English language and the translation that we found is quite it's quite faithful to the spirit of the original Schikaneder libretto. By the way, when I've done my first magic flute, I've done in Italian with the Gamera translation. That was the first translation of magic flute around 1794, something like this, and was the first translation that was performed in all Europe before that Mozart succeeded to be performed for a paradox. Magic flute in the world start as Il Flauto Magico with the Gamera translation. Then, of course, the Schikaneder text, the original one, but this really, I'm not very upset to use the English translation. And again, this project, a Cambodian magic flute, start, of course, the base is the Mozart score, the Mozart libretto, but to open to the Cambodian language, to the Cambodian performing arts, to the so many incredible, deep artistic aspect of the Cambodian life. It's important also to find which are these elements. We cannot just use these like doing a cocktail in a disordered way of different languages. But it is so important to also to focus and to focus what are the best Cambodian elements that perfectly fit in a text like a magic flute. And as Aaron told before, I mean, when we insert, instead of the march, we insert a religious march of a Cambodian tradition, it matches perfectly. It matched perfectly. Even in the scene of the two trials, the water and the fire, we will have a Cambodian march that is perfectly inserted, even in the tonality, because we are speaking of C major, a sort of C major, in Mozart and in Khmer music. So, of course, it is a great contrast of language, but it's more interesting the contrast than not the obvious banality.
And a lot of the plot happens through spoken dialogue, the advancement, the development of the plot. So how are you going to handle that?
Well, this is a little bit too soon to speak about, but I would like to, for example, to insert some Khmer actor that could, again, we have another form of Khmer art that is inserted inside of the...
Presumably because we have many nationalities, singers, we've chosen English perhaps as the main vocal language because most of the singers in this region will be able to probably have sung it in English. Is that correct?
Well, also from an audience point of view, I think
they
of
will
course English is more accessible than German.
So, but it's an international, it's an Asian, a pan-Asian collaboration.
Absolutely.
So we're thinking of how many different nationalities, and what are you thinking in terms of casting?
We have the orchestra mainly from Singapore at this point. We have singers from Vietnam, Korea, from Thailand, perhaps from Japan.
Probably, And then I'm from Naples. I don't know if I can be considered Asia, but Naples in Italy is a sort of. But it is important also the English language because for the audience. But it will be very important to have a very good system of subtitles that will be in Khmer, so the audience can read also. And I really hope that they can participate because sometimes, theater has another language. Also, if you do not understand the words, if the theater is well done, as we hope, we cross the finger, the plot arrives to the audience, the feelings, the elements, the possibility the energy arrives. So if I don't understand maybe that single specific word, who cares? The important is that the theater has that life and that power to conquer the audience and to make the audience belonging to the show. By the way, without the audience, we cannot do anything. So it's important that the audience really follow us, and this is the reason I want to have the open rehearsals to the audience.
My feeling is that for a first opera, it's really the only opera to do in this context. Do you agree with that?
Good question. I mean,
You know,
Going
it's fun,
back-
it's a pantomime, it's
Yeah,
fun.
going back to the Bhutan idea, the reason why we were successful with that venture was that the theme of the opera was very resonated with the Buddhist, of course, mentality, culture, and that has another kind of story. So
The title was Aces and Galatea.
it came from. So there are a few operas that have that kind of theme that would also work in this kind of culture as well.
Well, surely Magic Flute has so many things that could belong also to Cambodian culture. Because it's true that it's a fairy tale, it is an extremely also religious plot in terms of existential adventure of the human being passing through trials to conquer something more deep, more important, more interior. And this is so strongly connected with the deep culture of the Cambodian human nature, for what that I'm now a little bit starting humbling to understand from. This is my fourth travel here and my third time that I work personally with artists. And so we should respect also this. And I think a title like this surely has a lot of contacts with this culture, that by the way is an immense culture that we need to respect and to study quite deeply.
What do you think Cambodians can learn on a technical level?
No, I smile because we're learning a lot as well. So I mean, it's a learning experience for everybody. And I like to think of these kinds of projects as I call it the 3 E's. So entertainment, obviously, education, but also empowerment. And this is a very important aspect where a project like this gives the opportunity to the whole team. And the team is a very large apparatus. You have, of course, production managers, you've got stage managers, lighting, sound engineer, costumes, wigs, besides, of course, the whole performance apparatus. And so it's a huge professional embarking on that's a learning experience for everybody, especially in this kind of context where we are working in a completely unique kind of workspace, which is not a normal theatre. Already to do this production in a normal theatre with the normal apparatus is a challenge. To do it in this context here represents it's heroic. I would say it was heroic for everybody.
Describe the context a little bit.
In terms of physical context, we are in one of the most incredible temple of Angkor, that is the Chao Sei Devota, that is a wonderful, wonderful natural space. Every director will die to do a show in a place like this because it's perfect. There is a backstage that is built with a temple, then there is a tower on the left, a tower on the right. You should not have one single element of set that could cover such as exquisite treasure that is this natural space where we are going to do the show. Of course, it is at the open air, so we will need a good sound system, we need a good lights, we need to find a good schedule for rehearsing because the weather is quite hot and we don't want to have a singer melting on the stage because they are melting from the heat. And the conductor, the director is screaming all the night. We must do the lights in the night, of course, because there is the sun that, of course, is a natural projector that is a little bit difficult to switch off. And the important is to have a structure. This is the most important thing. So with the Cambodian and also with the foreign singers and elements, the structure is the most important thing. To have a contract that oblige them. They give a lot of benefit, but also a lot of rules and a lot of duties. So once that there is a contract, there is a structure. This is an educational aspect also, because in this way we are inside a frame and we cannot fake with rehearsals, with the timing, with absence, with the things unprepared. So people knows that must do this show, people must arrive prepared, and then the rehearsals are there to create a show, not to learn the piece. This is very, very important. So once that we have these pillars of fantasy, creativity, but also an extremely strong structure, we are saved.
I think because me also all the dancers also they really learn more about the feeling inside and how to work is really fast because this time Stefano, he's the good director, and he really fast working. So that's why when we work, it's not really like slow or do something, but he like go. And so they like all the feeling and all the thinking, everything like really straight. So like it's the strong experience for us. Yeah.
And I also really enjoy with this project, and it is very new for me because I never been working with a kind of opera and with the dancer and together, and it's very experiment as the dancer in the piece, and also
The
new
feeling.
work. The feeling is very very you know how it's very different. Like even we are different culture together, like with the opera and Cambodian
Because
culture.
how to make like the drama inside of your body, right?
yeah.
Really.
Somehow like it's always that, and also Stefano, he's very good. The person that always like telling us what he want, and Bonarim also special that she try to choreography follow the what he want, and we all really work together and very happy as a group, and we try to explore our culture to the new experience with the opera, and
Yeah.
we all very happy
Yeah.
to be working that.